My name is Dale Farmer. I'm 34 years old, but I've been a nerd since high school and still am. Somewhere along the way, I grew a backbone, and now I can stand up for myself. I took up karate to deal with frustration and anger, and it helped me find peace of mind. I always got excellent grades in chemistry and eventually got a job as a chemist, making anesthesia gas for dentists and sometimes doing special work for the government. I have a couple of hobbies that are not related to work. They help me disconnect and take a step back when I need it. I met a cute girl right after high school. Her name is Shirley, and she seemed like a goddess to me then, but now she has the usual girl next door look. I loved it madly until I visited my friend who runs an electronics store. Hello, Jimmy. I'm helping the guy next door with a school project. Since his father left, we have become friends. Jimmy rolled his eyes and laughed. Isn't this another volcano you're working on? Last time I sold you the materials for this, I heard that the gym almost burned down. I pretended to be offended. When you bring Pompeii to life, you can't do anything worse. We both burst out laughing. No, nothing like that. He wants to make something like an earthquake. I know where you keep what you need, but I think if we put some small cameras inside, he can show how it works underground and on the surface. So show me what you've got, and I'll be back soon. I picked out what I needed and a couple extra items, then headed to the checkout counter. Okay, Jim, show me what you have. We have regular cameras and stuff, but I want to show you this. He showed a device that looked like a small cone with a wire sticking out of the narrow end, only half an inch long. They run on small hearing aid batteries, but the image quality is incredible. The footage is clear and sharp, you can set up panoramic shots, and best of all, they can record video for 72 hours before you have to change the battery. The wire on the back transmits the signal to any monitor, TV, or computer without problems. I could almost hear the gears turning in my head. Do you know what I will do? I will include 5 spy camera pens in the kit. We haven't tested them yet, so you'll be our guinea pig. How do you like it? He asked. You know how to bargain. I extended my hand. Deal. He showed me how to activate the stick cameras and cone cameras, put everything in a box, and I was off to make Brian's day. I got home a couple of hours before Shirley returned. I played with the cameras a little, connecting them to the computer as the instructions said, and spent the next 30 minutes adjusting the zoom and lens to see how the video turned out. Okay, I admit it, I installed one camera on the dresser and jumped on the bed for a minute. Then I left it all on the edge of the dresser so Brian and I could install them in his project. It was Thursday, and we could only study on Saturday afternoon. I left everything as it was and went down to prepare dinner. Shirley arrived an hour later. She didn't look too happy. You cooked dinner, bless you. She kissed me on the cheek while I was cooking salmon on the stove. I'll take a shower and come down to help. Looks like you had a bad day, I said. Can we talk about this after dinner? I just want to take a shower and relax with a glass of wine, she sighed. Well, hurry up, otherwise it will get cold, and cold salmon is not tasty. I smiled, and she responded with a smile and a kiss. When she returned, I had already set the table. I got a call from work, and I spoke with the general director of the plant. Jerry, you know that I only have half a day off on Saturday and all day off on Sunday off. Call Terry or Jeff and have them do a demo. They know as much as I do and will do a great job. I looked at Shirley with an I can't refuse expression. Yes, I understand, I said at the end of the conversation. It looks like our dinner on Saturday will not take place. We're having a demonstration for the government, and Jerry has made it clear that he wants me to lead it. It's so simple that Ernie, our cleaner, could do it without any problems. Jerry always keeps me on guard while others are getting the short end of the stick. Over the past month, he has ruined every weekend for us except one. I'm starting to look for another job. We've known Jerry and Samantha for 8 years now, but I'm tired of this crap. Shirley choked on her wine. You can't do that, darling. Nobody will pay you as much as Jerry. Besides, who else would let you work on your hobbies during work hours? Dale, honey, let me call Samantha. Maybe she can talk him into softening up. Just don't do anything crazy until I talk to her, okay? Okay, but don't delay or I'll just go to hell. I'm tired of being used all the time. I was so angry that I didn't pay attention to how she knows that I'm working on my projects at work. The next morning, I wanted to call the guys and tell them to finish all the old projects because I want us to try something new. I got out of the shower and started drying off. I picked up my home phone and was shocked. You know how much I love having sex with you, but if you don't slow down, he will leave his job. With his knowledge of chemistry and experience in safe handling of substances, he will easily find a better place for himself. And he will be at home all the time, and our little meetings will have to stop because we won't be able to arrange them when he's here, she sighed. In a year or two, when he gets promoted, I'll divorce him, and in a couple of months you'll kick Samantha to hell. We will plant evidence, and she will be arrested, and then we will be free. He is so smart, but so stupid. If he hasn't caught us in 4 years, he won't catch us. I feel sick when I play the role of a friend in front of him. I should have killed him instead of telling you the plan. You've blown this out of proportion into some kind of crime novel. We would already be making money from his parents and living on the beach in Aruba. And you wanted it all at once, and now you keep me in the background until you want to play with him again, Jerry said. This is not true, my love. I'll show you this on Saturday when he goes to work. He's about to come downstairs, thinking I've made him breakfast. Just keep Saturday in mind. Then she hung up. Darling, you're late. Hurry up, she shouted up the stairs. I slowly hung up the phone and cleaned myself up. I got ready, got dressed, and went downstairs. She put 2 eggs on a plate, a couple of pieces of bread, and a couple of sausages that had been heated in advance, placed them on the table in front of my seat, then poured coffee into a mug and placed it next to the plate. I'm not hungry anymore, thank you, I said, took my briefcase and headed towards the exit. What about my kiss, dear? She looked at me with bewilderment. I opened the front door and she hurried after me. As she approached and pursed her lips for a kiss, I said, I'm late, and slammed the door in her face. Don't ask me how, but a moment later I was sitting in the car and parking at work. I saw Jerry. He covered the receiver with his hand so that no one could hear and constantly looked at me as if he was trying to solve a difficult problem. Around 11 m. Jerry came into my office. How are you, Dale? Something's on your mind. Can I help you, buddy? I got up from the table and walked past him without stopping. I'm busy. I need to check something, I answered and left. I found our production manager. Hey, Reggie, is your brother-in-law still a private detective? Yeah, he's still in business, hoping to get a big deal so he can move up to a higher level. Reggie looked me in the face. You look like you need help, Dale. He wrote his address on a piece of paper. I'll call him and tell him you'll come. Anything else? No, my friend, I'm just putting things in order in case they are needed. I came closer and said quietly, keep your head down when everything starts here. I patted him on the shoulder and left. Reggie and I have known each other since 7th grade. He realized that something would happen and it would be something big. He knew that I never do anything halfway. I returned to my office, grabbed my jacket, and told the secretary that I might be a little late for lunch. You never stay late for lunch. You always come back 10 minutes early. Tell me, Dale, I'm worried about you after all. I've always been on your side. Lisa, now is not the time to talk, but I can ask you 2 questions for reflection. First of all, how much do you value your work here? Secondly, do you have the courage to leave here, hoping only for the certainty that you will find a new job immediately after? I leaned closer. There's going to be a real storm here soon, and I'm afraid you might end up guilty by association. I'm on your side too. Think about it and give me the answer by the end of the day, okay? I went out for lunch, knowing that she would look after me thoughtfully. First, I went to the bank and prepared everything I needed. It helped that Skylar, my financial advisor's son, was a good friend of mine, and we became close. I then went to see a lawyer that a friend had recommended to me to discuss divorce. I spent half an hour with him, 10 minutes of which told me what I needed to do, and the remaining 20 minutes gave advice on the beer he was brewing. His office was decorated with photographs of his bruise. The last thing I did was go into HR to change my account information, allocate my investments, and set up how my 401k would be transferred to the correct accounts. When everything was ready, I went to the cafe across the street and ordered 2 sandwiches with fries and 2 sodas. Then he went up to his office. Approaching Lisa, I said, "1 ham and cheese sandwich with extra mayonnaise and fries." I took her favorite soda out of my pocket. "Better wait until you open it," I said with a smile and went into my office to eat my roast beef with gravy and cheese. Jerry came into my office and started shuffling through papers, saying what needed to be fixed. It was probably a mistake he made himself. Then he raised his head and asked, "What are you doing?" "I'm eating lunch, if you're interested," I mumbled with my mouth full. "Are you eating lunch?" he asked again. "Yes, this is what usually happens between breakfast and dinner. I thought everyone knew about this." "Well, this isn't the first time I've been wrong," I said, and as Lisa walked past my office door, I saw her cover her mouth to keep from laughing and return to her seat. "You need to go to Eldond. They have a chemical leak there, and the board of directors wants our best guy to lead the cleanup team. You must leave on Friday evening and return no earlier than Tuesday evening. They have already found a place for you to stay for the night, and the company will reimburse you for food receipts." He said this with his usual confidence. "Great, buddy." I stood up and put on my jacket. "Where are you going?" "You still have to prepare a demonstration for the government." "I'll ask Fred to take her." He began to raise his voice. "Then let Fred prepare everything. I need to get ready to leave." I wrapped the other half of the sandwich. "Don't worry, he'll handle it because you'll be next to him, right?" Jerry's eyes narrowed. "Relax, old man. You must remember at least something from the school chemistry course in order to look decent. Remember, if you can't amaze them with the brilliance of knowledge, surprise them with complete nonsense." I patted him on the back like a child. "You have enough fertilizer to completely overwhelm their brains." I left the office and headed down the corridor. When I passed Lisa, I stuck out my tongue, then walked towards the exit. I got in the car and laughed so hard I could barely breathe. It wouldn't be very good if I rolled on the ground laughing. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I stopped to calm down. After taking a few deep breaths, I pulled the trump card from my sleeve and found the desired contact on my phone. "Mrs. Adler, my name is Dale Farmer. Do you remember me? I saved your chiffon dress from a chocolate stain at your Christmas party." "Oh yes, Dale, I remember you. I called you Mr. Science for the rest of the evening." "Thank you again. I wore this dress to my niece's wedding a month later, and it still looked amazing. How can I help you, my boy? Are you calling to use the service while my husband is away?" She laughed with that exquisite laugh of hers. I knew she was joking. She and her husband were always making fun of each other. "Mrs. Adler, how funny that you mentioned your husband. I'd like to invite you both to dinner tonight, if that's right for you." "Of course, that would be wonderful," she replied. "I'll call Harrison and tell him." "Where will we meet? I remember how much you and your husband love seafood. How about Amulet Bay Restaurant at 7 o'clock? I said, crossing my fingers. "That would be ideal. I'll call Harrison and we'll meet there," she replied. "I'll be waiting for you. Thank you for your kindness." "See you later," I said with a smile. "Thank you, dear boy. See you later." Then she hung up. When they entered the restaurant, the waiter led them to a secluded table in the far corner. I stood up, kissed her hand, then shook her husband's hand. "Dale, good to see you again. Still working in the lab?" Mr. Adler asked. "I can vouch for his mixtures. They do what even Rudolph said was impossible." She winked at me. "Excuse me, sir, but why do you call this my laboratory? I don't understand." I was confused. "Don't call me sir outside the plant, now just Harrison. And this charming creature is Gabby." He leaned down to kiss her. "Why don't I call it your laboratory? I signed the papers for your promotion a couple of years ago and personally handed them to Jerry, our CEO. He looked at Gabby, then back at me. "I have a bad feeling that you never knew about this, right?" We paused as the waiters brought us our food, and then uncorked a bottle of champagne and poured it into our glasses. I didn't want to eavesdrop, but I heard something about a promotion. This bottle is at the expense of the establishment. Enjoy your meal and don't hesitate to contact me if anything goes wrong, the waiter said and left. So, son, what's going on in my company? Harrison didn't look too happy. There's a lot going on, Harrison, and your CEO is involved in it all. Can I speak freely? Harrison nodded. Then I told them everything. Harrison slammed his fist onto the table, causing everything around him to shake. He looked at the waiter and waved him off. I didn't even suspect it. Please accept my apologies, Dale. So, do I understand correctly that you are going to sue us under the moral clause in the charter? I won't do that now that I know you were deceived too, Harrison, but I intend to bring your CEO to justice with a long list of charges. I have an idea how I can make sure that the company does not lose face, and at the same time I get what I need. Was your wife part of all this? This is called complicity. If you sue her, the truth will still come out. Does she work or just live at your expense? Gabby asked. She is applying for a seat on the board of directors of Robinson Fashion. It seems this is now a place for rich people to shop, I replied. Then I got up and refilled everyone's champagne. I noticed Harrison glance sideways at his wife. Really? I know one person who works there. I think I could put in a good word to help your case if you want. Gabby smiled. I've been thinking, and it seems I have a plan. I looked at both of them. An hour later, we left the restaurant with smiles on Gabby and Harrison's faces. You are a merciless man, Dale Farmer. Now I understand that I chose the wrong person to be the CEO of my company. Harrison laughed. So, what time should we arrive tomorrow? I think around 8 in the evening will be just right, I smiled. God, Harrison, it's like in our youth, when we had so much fire. Let's go home and remember the past. Dale was a pleasure as always, Gabby smiled. I kissed her hand, nodded to Harrison, and shook his hand. I learned from the best, Gabby. I returned home and started preparing things for the trip. Shirley just looked at me. I walked past her without kissing her on my way home. I prepared dinner. Where have you been? I went out for drinks with friends from work, I said. I think it's better for me not to eat with so much alcohol. I don't want to get sick before leaving tomorrow. I'll wait until breakfast, if you don't mind. With what friends? Was Jerry drunk too? She asked suspiciously. I don't remember seeing Jerry. I guess he wasn't invited or something. I better go to bed. It's an early day tomorrow. I took off my clothes, put on my pajamas, and went to bed. Of course, when Shirley finished her business and entered the bedroom, she saw that I was asleep. But actually, no. She lay down, not trying to cuddle up to me, but simply turned away and began writing on her phone. I woke up early in the morning to greet a new day. I felt better than I had in years. Went downstairs to make coffee. Shirley came down half an hour later. Glad you woke up. I need to get ready. I held back a smile. I poured you some fresh coffee. It looks like it won't bother you. Then I went upstairs to get ready. In fact, I installed the cameras I bought all over my bedroom and in the guest room. Coming down again, I asked, Do you know where our little black suitcase is? I'll only be leaving for a few days. I don't want to take much with me. Maybe in the front closet. She was still reading messages on her phone while I was placing camera pens around the house. One for the front door, one for the back door, one to cover the living room, and the last two in her so-called living room. Damn it, we must have put it in the basement, I said, and went down the stairs to pick up the suitcase I had previously placed there. I connected the new computer, turned it on, and configured all the files to access all the cameras so that what they detected was sent to the new cloud account I created. I double-checked everything and hid the laptop between the floor and ceiling. Getting back up, I said loudly, Found it, and walked past Shirley. She shuddered so much that she almost fell out of her chair, and the phone flew out of her hands and rolled on the floor. I put a bunch of dirty clothes and a couple of heavy blankets into my suitcase and had to sit on it to zip it up. It was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon when I was ready to leave. I said goodbye to Shirley, but she didn't even move. Then I went up to her, kissed her on the top of her head and said, "Bye, see you later." And as per the law of meanness, her phone flew out of her hands again. I left the house, got into the car, and drove away. I went to a sports bar on the other side of town, far from everyone involved. They served amazing double cheeseburgers. I'll have to remember this for the future. After a couple of beers and watching the fans enthusiastically watch the football match, some of them getting quite aggressive, I turned on the broadcast from the cameras in my house. Less than 2 hours had passed before their activity began. I had been out of the house for less than 2 hours, and the screen already showed a whole line of scattered clothes, starting from the front door and ending halfway up the stairs. I switched to the cameras in the bedroom and, as expected, found them there. I wondered if they knew that I had installed a voice recorder right at the head of the bed. I didn't have time to hook him up to the broadcast, but the tape he records should make for some interesting entertainment later. I zoomed in and noticed their pills on the nightstand. Some were blue, some were pink. I quietly entered the house through the front door. The music could have drowned out everything around, but at this moment it was not necessary. I slowly walked up the stairs to the bedroom. Walking into the bathroom, I grabbed a towel and returned to the door. After putting on the mask, I used the previously prepared cylinders and carefully placed them in the room, after which I quietly closed the door and placed a towel at the threshold so that everything remained inside. About 20 minutes passed and not a sound came from the room. I chuckled, put my mask back on, and opened the door a crack. There they were, lying peacefully together. I took the belts I bought the day before out of the closet and opened the windows to freshen the air. Looking at my watch, I realized that I was a little behind my plan and had to hurry up. Having made sure that everything was in order, I continued. I put gags on them and connected them with carabiners. I then decided to wake them up by gently splashing cold water on their faces. I sat down in a chair and waited for them to come to their senses. At first, they looked confused, as if trying to comprehend what was happening. I foresaw this the moment when they comprehend the situation. "Well, what do we have here? It looks like you're not making a film because you don't have cameras. But here's a hint. I have 9 cameras in my house, and everything you do is already recorded. Do you think this is a good idea? I asked you a question," I said. They tried to nod their heads. "You've been having sex behind my back for 4 years, and now it's time for payback, isn't it?" I dialed Shirley's parents, putting the phone on speaker so she could hear the conversation. Her mother replied, "Hey Dale, how are you and Shirley doing?" "Not really, Mom. Shirley isn't feeling well, and I have to go on a business trip. Can you and Dad come see her? She doesn't answer her calls. I'm worried." "Of course, dear. We were going to watch TV, but we'll leave in about 10 minutes. Then we'll call you and tell you how she is, okay?" She answered, "It would be great. Thank you, Mom. I'm waiting for your call." I smiled. "Some are already on their way. Now who should we call?" "Yeah, I figured it out." I dialed the second number. "Samantha, how are you, dear? Can you come? I have Jerry, but he's not feeling well. Maybe you can help." I smiled and winked at Jerry. "Okay, Dale, just don't let him go until I get there," she said with concern. "You don't deserve someone like her, Jerry. She's too good for you. It's time for her to understand this. Who should we call next?" I patted Jerry on the head. "Shirley has 2 guests, and you only have 1 so far. It's time to even the score." I dialed the next number. "Mr. Adler, how are you doing this evening?" "It's okay, Dale. How can I help the head of my chemistry department?" Harrison asked. "You know, it's a little late, but I have Jerry and Samantha is on her way. Shirley, and I thought it would be nice for you and Gabby to come over for cocktails. What do you say?" "I think it's possible. We haven't had such evenings for a long time. Consider us on our way," he said. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Adler. We look forward to seeing you and Mrs. Adler. Give her my best wishes." "Thanks for the invitation, Dale." "We'll be there soon," he replied. I looked into Shirley's eyes. "Isn't this fun, honey? All our noisy friends will come to us today." All she could do was lie there with tears running down her face. Tears won't help, it's 4 years too late. Then I pretended to forget something. I completely forgot. I'm the only one who doesn't have a date for this ball. This needs to be fixed, doesn't it? I dialed the last number I was going to call today. Hello? Lisa, darling, there's going to be a party at my house tonight, and I couldn't think of anyone who deserved an invitation more than you. Please tell me you'll come. Dale, are you asking me out on a date? Asked Lisa. Lisa, the Adlers will come, both sets of our parents too. Even Jerry and Samantha will be here. But I will only be happy if you are here with me too. So what do you say? You're not drunk and you're not kidding me, right? She seemed slightly worried. I value you too much to joke with you like that, my love. This is not a joke. I invite you. To be honest, I received your address from the HR department today. If you don't want to go yourself, I can pick you up. Dale, you can't have my address, I know it, she laughed. 1244 Dualt Drive. I told you I have your address, I sighed. This is my old address, she laughed again. I now live at 342 Belmont Lane. Belmont Lane? It's only 7 blocks from here. I know, I've known your address for 6 years now. I'm your secretary, remember? She laughed. I'll knock on your door in 15 minutes. Then she passed out. Well, you two, don't run away anywhere. I need to get some snacks ready quickly, I said and laughed, remembering the new gourmet grocery store 3 blocks away. I found a room and ordered some snacks. Lisa arrived 5 minutes earlier than delivery. You said that you would need 15 minutes? I asked with a grin. Do you want me to come home and come again? She replied playfully, laughing. Let me show you what I've been dreaming about for the last couple of years, I said and hugged her and kissed her. Will there be more? She asked, breathing heavily. You'll see, darling, you'll understand everything soon, I answered, kissing her again. What about your wife? I don't think she'll look at it calmly. Lisa raised her eyebrow, looking at me embarrassedly. I laughed. Oh, Lisa, you don't know half of what happened today. Let's go, I'll show you something interesting. I took her hand and took her upstairs. Believe me, this is crazy. She looked at me in disbelief as I opened the bedroom door. Well, isn't it an impressive sight? Lisa walked around the bed to make sure she was seeing correctly. And how did all this happen? She asked, hardly believing her eyes. I went out to dinner and then came back, knowing that she and her lover would be here in our bed. I prepared a couple of CTR-17 gas cylinders and released them into the room. They passed out instantly. After that, I tied them like this as the main exhibit of today's party. I think our guests will enjoy this centerpiece of their betrayal. Lisa came closer to Shirley and leaned over her face. You are such a fool. But you know, I want to thank you for leaving him, because now I can give Dale what he always deserved from the very beginning. Yes, you are just a stupid, stupid cow. She looked at Shirley with contempt. We need to go downstairs, my love. Our guests will arrive soon. You need to be good hosts and prepare drinks and snacks for them. Laughing, I took Lisa downstairs. We could always come back later. They're not going anywhere. Shirley's parents arrived first. Mom asked, Why are you here, Dale? Didn't you go on a business trip? I couldn't leave without knowing how she was, so I decided to come back. I left it upstairs in the bedroom, in the condition in which I found it. You can go up and see for yourself, but I don't think you'll like it, I replied and looked at her father. Whiskey will be waiting for you when you return, and for you, Mom, there will be wine. Then Samantha came. She literally flew to the door and exclaimed, Where's Jerry, Dale? I need to see him. He's upstairs, Sam. I couldn't believe it when I saw it either, so I left them as I found them. There. She rushed upstairs. I had already poured her a drink by the time her parents came back downstairs. They just looked at me. I'm very sorry, but that's how I found them. Your drinks are on the counter. Your snacks are there, I said. Samantha, meanwhile, exploded like an army salvo. I had no idea she knew so many curse words. Then I heard a loud bang. I went out into the hall and saw her coming down the stairs. Sorry about the broken lamp. I hit her when I waved my arms. Do you have vodka? She asked. Here, dear. Sorry you had to watch that. I replied, filling her glass. No, Dale, if I hadn't seen this, I would never have believed it. Do you have scissors? She asked. I took them out of the drawer, and she took 3 of Jerry's credit cards and cut them in half, leaving them on the table. I took all his money, left him only $20 and the car keys. My brothers will come to pick me up. One will drive my car home, and the other will stay overnight in case he shows up. She looked at me with the saddest eyes I've ever seen. Pour me another, bartender? She asked. Shirley's mom came up to me. Of course, she's crazy for doing this to you. I won't ask if you can forgive her and take her back. I just don't know if I can continue to consider her my daughter. God, Dale, forgive us for letting our family fail you. It's not your fault, Mom. You and Daddy have nothing to do with this, I said, hugging her tightly as she cried on my shoulder. Shirley's parents left right after Samantha's brothers came to pick her up. Then my parents showed up. They went upstairs. Mom returned a few minutes later, and I poured her a glass of wine. Then I heard a crash and went upstairs. The father came out of the bedroom, rubbing his right arm. I hit him lightly. The guy is weak. I'll go down to your mother, he said. I went back downstairs and poured my dad a glass of bourbon. I took a couple of photographs for the family archive, as a keepsake, he joked when Mom walked out the door. My father leaned towards me and said quietly, "Good move, son, very good move." The last to arrive were the Adlers. We greeted them, and they sat down on the sofa. Can I offer you a drink? I have a great red for you, Gabby, I offered. Harrison stood up. I think we'll wait until everything is settled, he replied. Gabby nodded in agreement. So, Dale, would you mind introducing us to the other guests? Harrison said with a slight grin. With pleasure, Harrison. I couldn't help but chuckle softly. If you both follow me, I'll be happy to introduce you. I led them upstairs to the master bedroom. Look, honey, I think I hired the only CEO in the world who does home visits, Harrison said jokingly, clearly enjoying the moment. I left to get another chair for Harrison. Thank you, Dale. You really are a gracious host, he said, sitting down. So, let's get down to business. Something in this room smells not very pleasant. Yeah, honey, now that you mention it, it does feel like a sewer in here, Gabby added calmly. Harrison took a small stack of documents from his jacket pocket and began. Jerry Mathers, the company has evidence of your embezzlement and misuse of funds. You also hid information about Dale Farmer's promotion for 2 years by diverting the money to an offshore account. This account has been frozen, and the money is being returned to the U.S. You also withheld a promotion from Mr. Farmer that was stolen from him. The company's board sees this as theft and fraud against both Mr. Farmer and the company. The board of directors sees this as sufficient grounds for your dismissal. You may be wondering why federal agents are getting involved. The FBI looked into your offshore accounts and found that you violated several laws, including bank fraud and illegal money transfers, to name just a few of the charges they continue to look into. Very bad move, Jerry. But let me also remind you that in the process of withholding information about Mr. Dale Farmer's promotion, you deprived him of his legal rights. The council has filed a civil suit against you on its behalf. And the last thing I would like to mention, Harrison pulled out an additional document. The so-called golden parachute provided for upon dismissal was withdrawn by the board of directors and transferred. Excuse me, I had a document. Oh, here it is. It has been handed over to your successor, Mr. Dale Farmer. The board and I are deeply disappointed in you and your management skills, so don't expect a letter of recommendation. And the last thing we need to discuss, he nodded to Gabby, the word is up to you, dear. I turned my head to Gabby in surprise, but she responded by winking at me with a sly, almost insidious look. I think we've talked enough already, Jerry. Now it's my turn to you, Shirley, she said, turning her attention to my wife. My name is Abigail Adler. Do you recognize this name? Are you sure you still hope to take a seat on the board of directors of Robinson Fashion? She asked, watching Shirley's reaction. Shirley nodded her head slightly, answering yes. Gabby sighed heavily. In the business world, they call me the owner of Robinson's Fashions. Is it clear now? Shirley's head seemed ready to fall off from shock. I didn't even know this. After I found out about your infidelity with Jerry, my people began checking all your transactions with my company. They scrutinized every detail, and that's why I hired them. I guess you thought you were smart, didn't you? It took my people a while, but they found that 1/4% that you added to every purchase when you became a manager in your first department of the company. The money from these transactions was sent to 2 offshore accounts, one in your maiden name and the second in the name of your twin sister, who died 19 years ago. But you made 2 fatal mistakes. Gabby grabbed Shirley's chin and abruptly pulled her face towards hers. Her face was distorted with anger. Her eyes sparkled with rage. Her voice changed, becoming deep and sinister. "You trespassed on my territory, you stupid bitch." She screamed wildly, but then straightened up, smoothed out her dress, and brushed her hair out of her face, returning to her former calm appearance. Turning to Harrison and me, she reappeared as the Gabby everyone knew and loved. "To be honest, Dale, I think I could use a glass of wine right now," she said and headed down the stairs. I wanted to say something, but Harrison just raised his hands, shaking his head, and silently followed her. I stopped trying to understand it. The only conclusion I could draw was, never mess with something that belongs to Gabby. We went downstairs and I asked, "What will you drink?" "A glass of bourbon for me, please, and I think the same for Harrison," Gabby replied. Harrison nodded in agreement. Me and Lisa each took a double whiskey. Lisa and I tried to keep a short distance from Gabby. "Oh, come on, guys. I apologize for my dark self showing up, but we are talking about an amount close to $2 million. I take these things extremely personally. We need to talk about how we're going to handle this," Harrison said. "We have to be careful not to end up in the same shit as those two up there." "Don't worry," I replied. "I will take full responsibility upon myself." Lisa came up to me and said decisively, "I won't let you stand alone, Dale. You have to understand that we are a couple now. If you're so blind that you don't see it, I'll drag you out into the backyard and beat you until you realize it." Harrison looked at Gabby, who nodded in agreement. "You understand that you will most likely come out of this case completely dirty," he said, shaking my hand. When I hugged Gabby, she hugged me close. "You shouldn't lose her, Dale," she whispered to me. Then she went to Harrison, who was standing at the door. She said that if we ever needed anything, we could always count on them. We nodded in gratitude, but still looked worried. "Listen, friends, I have everything under control. Hell, I already have a half-decent plan in my head, so don't worry, okay?" I smiled at them. Gabby and Harrison said goodbye and left. I turned to Lisa. "Can you drive?" She looked at me in surprise and nodded. "Great. Then go to the store and buy me a burner phone. Cover your face so no one recognizes you, okay?" "What are you up to, my love?" Lisa asked, smiling slyly. "Please hurry up. Once I'm done here, I'll spend the night at your place if you don't mind," I said, mentally making a plan. Lisa quickly replied, "I'm already running to the store." And a moment later, she ran out of the house and went about her business. I stayed a few minutes to make sure I was ready to do what I had in mind. Then he went upstairs to the bedroom. I went into the closet and found our large suitcases that we took on trips. I called them the Timex collection. They may take a hit, but they still work. I swung my hand and forcefully brought the suitcase down on top of them. Then he picked it up and said, "Hold this for me, okay?" and threw it at them again. When I finished packing, I zipped up my suitcase, but then I remembered how much pain they had caused me. I climbed onto the bed and sat on the suitcase to close it. "Well, it looks like I've collected everything I need," I said, pinching Shirley's cheek as my grandmother did. "Okay, you too, behave. If you're obedient, I'll bring you a pair of new orange onesies. You will love them so much that you will want to wear them forever," I said, grinning, and went downstairs. I poured myself a drink and Lisa returned a few minutes later. "Are you ready?" "It's showtime," I asked. Lisa simply nodded. I activated the new phone, put all the collected evidence in my bag, and got down to business. I called all the local TV stations and newspapers, reporting that federal criminals were hiding at 6724 Downey Street and were about to be arrested. I told them that the criminals had barricaded themselves in a private house at this address. I then called the local FBI office and the police on my regular phone and said that two wanted criminals were at my house. I said that when I returned home, I found them in the bedroom. I tried to do something, but the man suddenly attacked me, pushed me out of the house, and locked the door. I explained that my keys were left inside because I always put them in a bowl by the door as soon as I get home. At that moment, as if ordered, several familiar students walked past. I told the dispatcher that I had pulled a muscle or sprained a ligament in my groin, and they came to my aid. They discovered the back door was open, went upstairs, and were able to subdue them. They then returned downstairs and said that the criminals were no longer a threat. "Are you sure the criminals are still in the house?" the officer asked me. "I think so, officer. I heard loud noises upstairs, but it's quiet now," I replied. "There are already patrol cars in your area, and we will send additional forces." "Where are you now? Are you in danger?" the officer clarified. "No, sir, I'm lying on the sofa. Next to me is a friend from work. I can barely move because of my leg injury," I explained. I lay down on the sofa, asking Lisa to get a baseball bat from the closet, and we began to wait to see who would arrive first. The police arrived first, then the reporters, leaving the federal agents last. We laughed because the federal office was the closest. "So, you are Mr. Dale Farmer, and what about your girlfriend?" the officer asked me, sitting down in a chair. "My name is Lisa Boyd. I came to visit Dale after his business trip. When I arrived, the man pushed him out onto the porch and then onto the lawn. When I got to Dale, he could barely walk," Lisa explained. "Got it," the officer said, making notes. "You said that students helped you. Can you name them?" he asked. "I'm afraid I can't. You see, they asked me not to mention their names. Two of them will soon defend their master's theses, and four have already received job offers. They don't want anything to ruin their future." "I promise to respect their request," I replied, pretending to be uncomfortable sitting and feigning a slight grimace of pain. "Lisa, be so kind as to go to the bathroom and get me a couple of Advil tablets from the medicine cabinet, okay?" Lisa stood up, and the officer offered to accompany her upstairs. "I'll just take the whole bottle so I don't bother you anymore," said Lisa. The officer nodded and followed her back to the stairs. She came back with a bottle of pills and gave me two, then went to the kitchen to get a glass of water. As soon as she returned and sat down on the sofa, three police officers came in with bolt cutters and went upstairs. An hour later, two ambulances arrived to pick up Jerry and Shirley. I especially liked the way they were taken out on stretchers in front of the crowd that had gathered outside my house. The cameras filmed this non-stop. The photographers' flashes flashed like crazy as they were loaded into the cars. The detective told me that I would not be able to stay in the house that night as it had been declared a crime scene. Lisa immediately suggested, "He can stay in my guest room. You can find him there when you're done with the inspection," she added, giving the police her address and home phone number in case they wanted to ask additional questions or let me know when I could return. The officer agreed and helped Lisa lift me to my feet. I went out onto the porch, where I gave a small press conference, answering all the journalists' questions. At this time, the head of the federal group approached me. "Agent Copeland," I turned to him. "Considering everything that happened, she's my wife, he's my boss, and they were arrested at my house after I called the police and federal services. Tell me, I'll still get it." "The $10,000 reward you were offering for their capture." I made a serious face, but laughed in my heart. Harrison waited a week before announcing my promotion to make it seem official. Shirley and Jerry received subpoenas containing divorce papers while they awaited their trials. There were no problems with divorce. I asked to see Shirley one last time, but she flatly refused when the prison guards conveyed my request to her. A year later, my wife Lisa and I became parents to our son, Dale Harrison Farmer. I sent Shirley a photo of the three of us. The guards told me she flew into a rage, tore up the photo, and attacked the guard who gave it to her. When she was sent to the punishment cell, she burned both the photograph and the letter. I actually received an award. My family and I went on vacation. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think. Click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next